Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
Bell and Company.
Hey,
Yes,
there.
yes, it is another episode of Bell and Company here on Intellectual Radio. I am your host, Mario J. Bell. Along with me, as always, we have my wonderful sidekick, Libby, over there.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, Libby.
Hi.
And also joining us, Joe. Hey, Joe. Joe Brunker. Hey, Joe.
Howdy, folks.
He's here with us every week now. And we have a great guest that's with us, and also a fellow podcaster. And I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mike Wiles.
Hey, Mike.
How you doing?
Welcome
buddy?
to the
Hi.
show.
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Joe has been helping us get a lot of the guests on here, and I guess you guys actually work together, right?
Yes, Joe. So I have a podcast called Retro Rock Roundup. It's a
I
classic
see the
rock.
shirt. We got to
Yeah,
get merch.
we got
He's
merch.
got it. He's got the
Yeah.
merch. We got to
He's
get
got
that.
some good stuff for sure.
And so I started the podcast about 4 years ago, and we kind of ran in with Joe with Primal Moon and had him on the show a couple times, and then they actually recorded our theme song, written and recorded our theme song.
Oh, nice. I didn't hear that part off the air. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a fun time. You after I think that was like after the second podcast you asked us to.
Yeah, I
record
saw.
your
I'm
scene.
driving to work one day, and our podcast was in its infancy. We probably like 6 months, and it was started 4 years ago. My son, that's now he's 21. He was, like 17 at the time. I'm into classic rock. He's into classic rock. We wanted to
Great.
do a podcast, and originally just be, hey, we're going to talk about artists and albums and stuff. And then we started having, some new artists on also. And I'm driving to work one day in the snow, and there's this crazy guy at the corner in Plainfield with
Oh,
a sign
yeah.
that says, listen to Primal Moon music dancing around.
The
and-
guerrilla marketing of Joe Brunker.
That
Yeah.
guy's
Yes.
a psychopath.
And so,
He probably thought that when he saw it. This nut job
well, I
out of
did.
it.
And I'm like, you know what? I got it. So I pulled over, and I always like to hear music and stuff. So I said, I pulled over and I got my Spotify out, and I put it Primal Moon, and I listened to it, and I liked it. And so I messaged Joe, and I said, there's some guy out there from some guy with your sign, with your band's name on it. He goes, oh, that's me. So the rest is history.
That's the
So,
crazy guy with the
yeah.
this lead singer. That's great. Hilarious. That's awesome. That I didn't, like I said, I didn't hear that you did that. That's really awesome. So I love that rock stuff. I mean, how far back do you go back? I mean, I've heard some of your podcasts, but I don't know
Well,
everything about
we
you.
pretty much cover, we say all things rock, and we pretty much cover everything. So
Okay.
I've had, and again, it was kind of funny because we started out saying, well, we'll just talk about albums. We weren't expecting to get much of a response. It was our fun thing to do, but it goes out on all the platforms. And we were about 4 months into it. And I get an email one day from, if you're familiar with John Waite's agent, John Waite from the Babies,
Yeah.
Missing
Yeah, I
You.
know.
Of course.
Yeah. And it says,
I'm that old.
We're old enough to actually have heard his stuff. Yeah.
and he said, the
Originally.
manager said, this is John Waite's agent, and John would like to he's got a new acoustic album out, and he wants to be on your podcast. Is that possible? And I'm looking at this thing. I was sitting in line waiting to pick up my one son from school, and I'm like, is this real?
Yeah,
And
this
that,
gotta be
that sounded
fake.
too good to be true,
and
right?
there's a friend of mine that's had a podcast for years, similar type of theme, and I sent it to him, and he goes, oh yeah, that's the guy that emailed me years ago when he was on my podcast.
Wow.
And so we had John Waite on. Again, we do them all via Zoom, mostly for the people that are out of state and things like that. And it just one thing led to another. And we've had 274 episodes. We've had people from Jim Peterick from Survivor to,
Oh, wow.
Oh, you got to. I've been working on that.
yeah, he's a great guy.
He lives
Mick,
in Burridge by me.
he
I
does.
live in
Yes,
Burridge.
right. Mick Box, the legendary guitarist from Uriah Heep. We've had people from Saxon,
just here.
Foghat.
They were just in town.
Yeah, they were in town. Yes. And, it just is spiraled into great things. And the one thing, so I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan. I've been since I was like 9 years old, and also a big Bruce Springsteen fan. But you try to get them is pretty much impossible. But Mick Jagger has a brother named Chris Jagger, who was a solo artist in the 70s and actually still continued being a solo artist at a much lower level.
Okay.
And my
Pretty
sisters
good.
had his albums, though. He's actually really good. And I happened to look about 2 years ago, that just looking up people, and he actually still had a new album out, still making music, and he had a memoir, a book about his life, being the brother of
Nice.
Mick Jagger.
That being, yeah, right.
So I emailed him and said, "Hey, do you want to be on Retro Rock Roundup?" And he said yes.
Great.
So nothing else. I've said that I had Mick Jagger's brother on.
That's
from
pretty awesome.
London. He's sitting there sipping tea, and
Oh, he did again through Zoom. He wasn't
Yeah.
here in the studio with
No,
you.
Did he have
no.
biscuits?
Illinois.
Did
Where do
he
you
have
actually do
biscuits
your
with him?
podcast?
so I do them pretty much out of my home office.
Okay.
The Retro Rock Roundup studio, as you may call it. I've done some live things too. We used to record in my wife's office, but now with everything being easy, now you just a laptop and a microphone. A lot of times you can get.
Pretty easy to do it remotely these days, or out of a home office, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar. I've heard there's a band called the Dead Daisies. They're
I've heard of them.
yeah, they're a lot of people were in other bands like.
Libby's into a lot of music.
That's
so,
good. Let me
yeah.
see. Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Well, the lead singer was the lead singer of Motley Crue after one guy left. for a
John
while.
Corabi?
John Corabi, and the other guy was from White Snake, and so I have a lot of reps that email me and say, "Hey, can you have this one on to promote this album and this album?" So this guy emailed me and he said, "Will you be interested in talking to the Dead Daisies?" And I'm like, "Yes, definitely." He goes, "How about we do it live at their hotel in Chicago next week?"
Wow.
And I'm like,
Okay.
"Really?" He goes, "Yeah, they were playing at the Arcada in St. Charles, which
Yeah.
I went to that night." He goes, just come up and we'll give you all the info and you can go record them live."
Ron Onesti runs the Arcada.
Yes, Ron's been on my
the
show
Plains
too.
Theater.
Yes.
What's his group called? The Ozone, or like he's got
Ron
like
Onesti is
O
got, like,
shows.
O
it's
Entertainment, I
O
think.
shows,
shows.com,
yeah.
O Show
yes.
Entertainment, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so my son Josh is he's 19 and he's into production and editing. He's going to Columbia and Chicago for that. So I'm like, "Josh, you
Great.
come with me because you know all the technical stuff. I don't want this to go wrong.
Right,
You
right.
push the buttons. I just know the rock stuff."
Sure.
So we got the microphones and the laptop and drove up to a hotel in Chicago and interviewed them.
That was awesome.
They come down and they were still in their garb from the night before and
They're still partying, probably.
still dressed like rock stars. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. It's really cool to meet these great people from all ages.
Do you actually play some of the clips of their songs? How are you getting the rights to that?
You can play as long as Libsyn will allow, the platform allow to do, as long as you play like 30 seconds.
Right.
Okay,
You know,
so
you
there
can
is
do
a
the
limit.
30-second rule.
Yeah, there's like just a little bit of each song. I don't start at the beginning usually. I kind of, my son fades my voice into it.
I've noticed for like the video side, we're on YouTube and Facebook videos and Instagram stuff, clips that we put up there, they'll take it down.
Yeah,
So
that's why
I'm
I'm
wondering.
all audio, not video.
Okay.
So it's a little easier also.
think so.
We have to get around how to do that because there's certain ways you have to download it. My son has to take it from YouTube, convert it to MP3.
But what if you're sitting there with the artist, like you were sitting there with
what I do? Yeah,
Mick Jagger's brother. So
we just talk about the songs and he inserts them later.
okay.
That's kind
But
of.
I guess they could give you the right. Well, no, they still got to talk to the record company.
But they're
the producer.
usually like a lot of times they're excited. Like a lot of the artists are excited that you're there, promoting their album. Because there's a lot of the guys that, like Uriah Heep, a great heavy metal band, progressive rock band from the 70s.
Sure.
They're still making great albums, but nobody plays it on the radio.
Nobody plays new
No,
classic
I don't
rock
think you're
bands.
going to
No,
hear
and
Uriah
so-
Heep. No.
They're using things
Maybe
like
on Rebel
this.
Radio. You know the station Rebel Radio? I used to work there.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Maybe there.
But other than that,
Probably.
it's hard to get the the drive in Chicago isn't playing it. So they love that you're promoting it, and this is how they're kind of their grassroots thing again of doing it.
Sure.
But in the process of doing these classic rock stuff, and we've done one-hit wonder bands from the 60s, etc., we found out there's a lot of great new music.
Didn't you have the Circle on there?
I did have the Circle. I don't know if everybody remembers Red Rubber Ball, the one-hit wonder from
Oh, yeah.
the 60s. That
I do
is, they're 80 years old. They're still outperforming. They
Like
regrouped
a
recently.
red
Wow.
rubber
Yes.
ball.
Oh, those guys.
Yeah,
Really?
they're still
Jesus.
together. They reformed years
I thought
later,
they'd be dead.
and they played a place in Michigan, and they invited me out to it. And I went to it, because my other son goes to college near there, and I mean, these guys are 75, 80 years old, and they're still out playing and
I
having
guess a lot of
fun.
the guys from the 70s, 80s are 80.
Yeah,
So, like
That's
the
crazy.
Stones, for instance, we were talking about his brother, Mick Jagger's brother. Interesting.
well, and what
I just can't get that in my head that we're getting that old. I mean, I just turned 50.
It is crazy, but I
feel
found
ya.
out also we call ourselves Retro Rock Roundup, but the one other thing I've discovered is there's so much great new music. People say there's no more good music, and I'll say no. I respectively disagree with you because there's so much great music. Starting when I first heard Primal Moon, and then all over the Chicagoland area, we started, getting, there's a lot of great bands. Corduroy Cat is from Riverside. There's White Rabbit Object from Chicago. We started meeting all these great bands.
That are of the same, like a rock. Venue, yeah.
White
so
Rabbit,
many-
I'm trying to get on here. Actually.
Oh, they'd be a
So,
blast.
yeah.
Oh my God, they're fun. But the cool thing about it is there's so much great music. I've talked to now people from all over. I talked to a band out of London called Hardwick Circus, just up and coming 23-year-old band. So we actually now have got a second thing.
They're in their 20s. I mean, they're 23 old.
Yeah.
They're really good. I jammed them because you sent me a message of that
Hardwick
podcast,
Circus,
and
yeah.
I totally jammed them.
So now I'll get all these new bands sending me stuff, and there's a lot of good ones. So I've kind of done a new thing. So we have episodes every Tuesday, which is our flagship show, Retro Rock Roundup, and that's where we do classic rock interviews, album conversation, etc. But now select Fridays, not every Friday, usually twice a month, we do New Music Fridays, where we focus on new up and coming bands from all over the world.
Oh, that's great. So let's talk about your background then. I mean, you're doing this still as kind of a side job, or is this like your full time?
No, this is my hobby.
Okay.
But it's kind of my passion. So I've been a classic rock fan since I was like 9 years old. I had older sisters that were into Stones and Dylan and the Beatles. And they got married, and I kind of stole all their albums. And I'm a vinyl freak, so I collect vinyl, and I used to read liner notes. And that's how I kind of just absorbed this for years. And then got into CDs, and now I'm back into vinyl.
Are you in a band, or do you play?
No, I don't. I played classical piano for like 7 years. I still kind of play when I was a kid, but then life took over.
He's won Sherman and Tingle's trivia on the drive so many times.
I'm kind of, if I've got one thing in life, is I can do like that 30-second song challenge really well.
He's a buff.
Nice. But drive 97.1 Chicago. Yeah, that's great.
Full time, I'm a kitchen designer. I work, things like that. I've been doing that for 30 years. But this is my way to get away from work and have fun. And this is my passion. And my wife would say, "Why don't you do a podcast for years?" I'm like, "Oh, I got time." Yeah, you got time. And you know what?
You can make time.
Again, my son and I started out. Now he's in college. We would do some of the episodes together, and once in a while he'll join in for me. He goes to Grand Valley State in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Once in a while he'll zoom in on stuff.
That's a cool campus.
It is really. But he'll go out, but he's really busy with school and stuff. So I've just taken the reins.
One son that's at Columbia, one that's at Grand Valley State, both doing the entertainment stuff, or
well, he's doing engineering, and then But my other son Josh really got into the whole media thing, and he's not as much into some of the music, but he's really into editing, post-production. He's all the behind the scenes things.
Yeah,
he's really good. Like, I mean, just when you guys invited me to the show for Naperville's Neuqua Valley's
he does like that. When he was in high school, they have a 4-year he went to Neuqua Valley High School in Naperville. They have a 4-year media and film program.
I'm glad that some schools are sticking with it. Our school has it now. That I went to a private school in Oak Park, Illinois, and they didn't have any of that. They had theater.
Yeah, and he's actually been the tech director for the big variety show they do. He's been tech director for Graduation. They really throw him into the fire, and
great.
Right. So he's very good at that. So that's why he went to Columbia, because of that part. But but he makes all my podcasts sound great. I just send it to him.
He edits it all.
He edits it all, adds this in, calls me up. What the hell is this? Who's this fucking artist? Okay, I swear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We don't do the F. That's the only one we don't do. But that's okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That one slipped in.
I'm
No biggie.
sorry.
But yeah, so it's kind of interesting that this is something that you got into. I mean, just because, hey, I like listening to rock music, so now I'm going to interview some people. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and I've
kind of
absorbed all this stuff for
deal.
years. I've absorbed it and had so much fun with it. I'm like, okay. And my wife really pushed me to do it, and I'm glad I did, because we've just kept going with it now. And
that's interesting. That I thought it's usually the other way around. The wife doesn't want you to bother with the hobby. She wants you to be more time with her, though. I guess not.
No, she knows that, we both work really hard, and she has her passion. She's not interested in rock music stuff at all. She's younger than me, and she likes more modern music, which I like, but she knows this is something that's way, she's not really into it. But if you are, hey, go have fun with it.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's really fun, and she's been supportive, and the kids have been supportive of it. And
I love how supportive you two are of each other. I don't know. You can just see the loves there, and it's pretty cool.
She's not on with you though.
No, she's like, I don't want it. I don't think she's heard the episodes yet. She might have once in a while listened to it. She's no. You want to talk about my wife would listen to if I was Travis Kelce. because she loves the New Heights podcast.
Yeah.
Who's
you know.
that?
Okay.
I always say, the difference
We don't wanna
between
talk
Travis Kelsey's podcast and mine is that my wife listens to Travis Kelsey's.
Yeah. Funny. Well, that's, a lot of people listen to his podcast. I mean, you want to talk about that? I guess it's genres. You're talking about music. He's talking about more, everyday modern stuff,
Yeah.
I haven't even
politics,
listened to it
I
yet,
guess.
honestly.
But but I love this format. The podcast. It's just a great thing.
It's what's nice about it. It's like you're just sitting having a conversation. You don't have to necessarily worry about taking a break at 10 after and 20 after, stuff like that. But I mean, we could insert ads and stuff, but I just like kind of having it flow, and I'm sure you do the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I do. And we get an artist on, and it's so fun because most of the artists you get on are just so fun to talk to. And they appreciate you doing it. They, you feel like you're in your living room. John Waite was there for like an hour and a half talking to us. Like he didn't stop.
Really?
Like, here, look at this. He pull out an album he had in his house,
How long are your podcasts usually?
Normally I like about an hour.
Okay.
It depends on the artist. Sometimes I'm limited. They say you got a half hour. But sometimes if you get friendly with them, they'll extend. The artists in England are just fantastic. Polite, wonderful people.
They're just sipping the tea, like you said, right?
They had the guys from Wang Chung on.
Oh, nice.
Remember the Escape Club?
Wow.
Wild
Wow.
West.
Okay, now that's more like modern. What do they call that? That's 80s.
80s,
sure.
yeah. But we've had people like that on, and they're just fantastic.
Your wife probably likes them.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she likes. That's what she.
I would like to hear. I got to hear that podcast. That was one of my favorite bands as a kid, Wang Chung.
Yeah. Oh, they were fantastic, and they're still out doing things, and a lot of them are doing like the 80s group tours.
Yeah.
But they're like playing in Europe for 40,000, 50,000 people a night.
Wow.
Because they could do I had the Cutting Crew, I Died in Your Arms.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
They're doing tours with other bands playing all over. Playing all over Europe.
Europe's so much easier to tour in.
40,000
honestly.
though?
Yeah, because they'll do Cutting Crew and Wang Chung and maybe Berlin, or they group them together.
Yeah.
So they come out and play 4 or 5 songs.
They did one that came to Aurora, Illinois. I can't think what theater. Joe would know. Not the Paramount, the other one. What's that other one?
The
that's
River's
there?
Edge.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's River's Edge. If that's
Yeah.
it's the
what is
outdoor
that?
theater.
No,
Yeah.
it's another indoor theater. I can't think of the name. Anyway, they had the 80s revival thing there, but it wasn't those guys.
Was it Two
It was,
Brothers? Roundhouse.
Piazza, I bet.
It's the Piazza thing.
Yeah.
Piazza.
Yeah, I saw
There we
that.
go, in
it's
Aurora,
Piazza.
Illinois. Anyway, they didn't have that. It doesn't even sit or standing room 40,000 people, but that's pretty impressive.
I think Europe they really draw into it. I guess
Well,
Yeah,
they're
they-
from there too. Right? I mean,
Quite
from
honestly,
England,
yeah,
those guys.
like they'll stay on that. The European tours are a lot easier than American tours for a lot of the European bands because of the cost and all of the other things that come into play. It's kind of crazy. That's why so many European bands don't even come out here anymore.
Well, I always thought they moved here, but a lot of them didn't. They just came, recorded in New York or LA, and then went back to London, right? I mean, and then toured the world. They didn't necessarily stay here. You know?
and some of them have bigger audience. Like I had Nazareth on, Love Hurts, and they were they still have a new album out 2 years ago, but they do a huge tour all over the country, all over Europe.
Really?
They go to Germany, they play, all over it.
I
all
thought
these
they
areas.
lived here, though. Maybe they don't either.
No, he called me from Scotland.
Oh, I guess they don't live here.
Scotland.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
None of the big bands live in the States.
Though, a lot of them are living right now of the classic rock American bands. A lot of them are living in Nashville.
Right.
If they are here, they're
Yeah.
in Tennessee, huh?
Yeah, Nashville seems to be no longer the country, it's everything.
It's everything now.
I'm not
I've
gonna lie, I
noticed that.
can't stand Nashville unless I'm on the east side. Like I can't stand Broadway. It's
Really?
like a sardine can of people, and it's just
During the whole riot thing, they were burning down part of the Broadway area. A couple of buildings were on fire when we were there. We were driving through
Oh, okay.
on our way to Florida, and we couldn't get to some of the areas. I'm like, this stinks. They closed the Grand Ole Opry. This was during that whole
Yeah.
crazy thing, whatever that year was. But that's interesting that a lot of those bands. So you're saying a lot of the English bands, if they're here, they're probably in.
A lot of them are in Nashville.
Nashville.
All different ones are in Nashville. They seem to be, people I'll talk to are from all over. And I've also had a lot of really interesting sidemen I've interviewed. For example, there's a guy, what's the last one? It was Peter Frampton. Frampton Comes Alive. His bass is Stanley Sheldon. I did an interview with because he's still doing these other band things, and he's played for Warren Zevon. He's played for Peter Frampton. He's
Warren
played for
Zevon?
Lou Graham. great stories.
Nice.
These sidemen give me such great interviews, and they've got great stories.
I love
you
it.
know.
It's like the brother of the band, or the friend of the band, or the backup lead singer of the band, or drummer. That's awesome that you got them.
And you can find a lot of them come to like people send me things if they're promoting something.
I mean, your audience must be fairly large at this point.
It's
You've been doing
growing
it,
all the
what,
time. That's the thing. I
almost-
keep watching. It's growing all the time, and we're getting more and more viewers, and we're getting people that respond to like the Facebook page and stuff like that. So yeah, it seems to be growing, and people are listening to it.
But you must be overseas. People are looking at you.
Yeah, it's really weird when you see the thing that comes from Libsyn gives you a whole like status about each artist,
Sure.
each episode, and it's like, oh yeah, there was one that was in downloaded in England, and one's downloaded in Japan, and one's downloaded. And you're like,
Wow.
really? Like people are listening.
They must be searching like Uriah Heep or something in your podcast.
Right?
Came
It
up,
comes
right?
up like that.
That's
So
great.
yeah, it's fun. And then I've like searched out people. My best one is dropping Tuesday. So I went to see the Doobie Brothers play at the Tinley Park. It's Credit Union
Yeah.
One now.
When were they? That was a couple years
A month
ago.
ago.
Right?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
so
were-
they were
they
just
were
back
here-
again.
Yeah, band with
Oh.
Steve Winwood. Great show.
Oh, I didn't know they came back again.
And it's it's Michael McDonald and Tom Johnson and Pat Simmons and John McPhee, the four of the original Doobie
Wow.
Brothers.
Who opened for them again?
Steve Winwood. which
Yeah,
was
Winwood,
amazing, too.
I thought he
Okay.
couldn't. Didn't he have something wrong where he couldn't hear or something? Or no, that might not have been Steve Winwood. That's Eric Clapton.
Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I thought Steve Winwood had something wrong too. But anyway,
he sounded
so
great.
Steve Winwood was there.
So
That's
but the
pretty cool.
bass player for the Doobie Brothers, who I didn't know at the time, was singing he started singing one of the songs on his own. He had this great voice, and he's doing all the harmonies. I'm like, who is this guy? So I'm always looking. This guy's name was John Cowan, and I didn't realize as I'm doing research and more the next day, he's been in like bluegrass music, like they call the Newgrass Revival. They were like the Grateful Dead of Newgrass of the 70s, and then he toured with Leon Russell.
Oh,
I'm sure Libby's heard of Leon
Libby knows
Russell.
Leon Russell.
Yeah, and he's had this great career between all these people, and he wrote a book. He just released a book called Hold to a Dream about his whole life.
Oh.
And he also has interviewed like all these other artists over the years, and the book features those. So, I looked into it. I sent a thing to his rep, and he was on a couple weeks ago, and the episode dropped around. He was a fantastic guest.
Oh, great.
So you find these people that, and I'm hoping that my listeners will kind of learn something, or there's more than, these people have a lot of great
Just
stories.
the fact that you were able to get him on your podcast is pretty cool.
Yeah, and he
I
sat there.
thought they usually look for the bigger, like maybe not so much the Howard Stern deal, but somebody like, that's got 1 million followers or whatever. You know?
I mean, it's funny that the only people, and he's there to promote his book, and he was friendly, and from his home in Nashville. He was in Nashville. The band, the Doobie Brothers, were on a 2-week break, and
So it doesn't matter that you don't have 1 million followers, unless you do. Maybe you already
no,
do.
I wish.
Don't
we're,
we all, right?
we're
He'll
getting
get there. He'll get there.
sooner.
With your podcast, you will. I mean, I don't know how much you advertise it. That's another thing. Advertising is important too.
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff on social media. So we're on Facebook, and we're on Instagram and X or Twitter, whatever they're calling it this week. Threads.
I think it's still X
Yeah, X. There's a great music community on Twitter.
on the X
Yeah.
and X/Twitter.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of things that way. And then I opened up a TikTok thing 2 years ago. I jumped in with the kids.
Still not on there yet. I got to get on there.
It's fun. I found some really cool artists.
Yeah.
I found an artist.
Those kids, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I'm flipping through.
So it's probably a younger. Well, maybe not. I don't
It's
know.
all
now.
different
Now it's
things. There's some
become
good
more-
classic rock stuff on
Yeah.
there. But I found this group. These kids were 15 years old, all played their own instruments in like a basement studio. And they're playing everything from classic rock to heavy metal to Beatles music to hip hop. And they play their
Wow.
own instruments, and they're fantastic. They dead on, and it just sounds great, So I'm like, well, and they have 1 million followers.
Like what kind of instrument? You mean like
Bass,
bands?
Full band.
full keyboard. And one kid's lead singer is a keyboard player. They got a guitarist that's like 15 years old. You think he's
Okay.
Jimi Hendrix?
Not orchestra though, but actual
No, like
band.
band.
Okay.
There's a girl that plays bass and sings. Got a fantastic voice. They got a drummer, but they played all these songs. So they have 1 million followers on TikTok.
Amazing.
So I
That's a lot.
I sent a thing, and like they're one of the daughter's mom is their manager. This is like a year and a half ago, and we had them on.
Oh, you did have. I was just.
They
gonna say, did you have
responded
them on?
back. It took a
Okay.
couple times, and then 4 of the smartest, friendliest kids you ever met, talented as all hell. They're called Burn the Jukebox. And now
I know who they are. They're on Facebook too and Instagram.
Yeah. And now they're touring.
I didn't know that.
They
I just see
started
their
touring
video.
like smaller places, but they played Las Vegas at a little place. They played more
Jeez.
East Coast stuff. And, you know, while they're going to school and, you know, and it was really interesting.
Where'd you say they're from again?
They're from Pennsylvania.
Okay, Pennsylvania.
Love
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
But
Interesting.
Burris, but I found this great vibe. But they played a ton of classic rock, and now they're releasing their own music. But they're 15 years old,
And
they're
you
like,
probably found it doing a search, classic rock band or something on
Yeah.
TikTok, right?
Well, I was actually just came up and I'm like, these guys are good. Some things aren't that great, you know. But
Wow.
these are like they were good, really good play and sing.
That's the thing about social media. I mean, everybody can maybe do a show now. The technology's become so accessible to everybody, you know.
Well, this band,
But they have a good show. That's the key.
I think the parents
Or a
have
good
got
band.
the parents have got money. The kids have got money because they have a nice basement studio
Oh,
and they have the top instruments, you
Yeah.
know, and the
somebody's
mom,
backing them.
well, the bass player's mom and the drummer's dad were both in bands, so that you know, like they know what to do, you know.
That's pretty cool, actually.
You know,
that
but
they're doing it.
they're doing it and they seem to be having
Million
fun.
followers. They're doing something right.
I'm like, you know, I got to at least get into it. So I actually, you know, they recorded the episode and then I sent it to the manager. And they had the video of them saying, because what I say, you introduce yourself and say you're listening to Retro Rock Roundup. So they did their little intro. Well, they recorded that video of them doing that and put it on TikTok.
Oh man,
And
that
is
blew
my
up for you.
most downloaded episode ever.
I
is Burn
bet.
the Jukebox
Yep.
because of
Because
that.
those guys did. You know, we had a band on my other show called Liliac, and they really blew up. Now they're doing.
Didn't they
they're
just
doing
play
more heavy metal though.
Mhm.
Where did they just play? Like they played a big
They go
fest.
through. Not. I don't know if they come through Chicago actually.
I think they go through the Forge sometimes.
They were in
Yeah,
Joliet,
yeah,
Illinois.
yeah.
Yep. But they're kind of that similar thing. They just started out small. Now they're like, they have a lot more than 1 million followers, and they're on everything.
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
think they got an album. I'm not sure if they got signed or not. But anyway, it's called Liliac. You got to look into them. But they're not really. I mean, they're metal. They're heavy metal from like the 80s. They're doing a lot of.
Wow, that's
They're doing
Motley
great with it
Crue.
for sure, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's sweet.
Ozzy
There's some
Osbourne.
great talent out there, you know. And then we do things like because like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has different people inducted this year, you know, the new inductees. We started doing Jeremy and I did some of them, like spotlights on artists. We did Foreigner, we did Peter Frampton. We kind of talk, we'll go into like, let's talk about something different. We picked 5 deep Foreigner songs you'd never know,
Nice.
because everybody's heard Jukebox Hero.
Yeah.
you know,
most of Foreigner they've known. Yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of did an episode like that. But I also have a group of friends that are all music nerds. My other nerd thing I do is every Saturday for the last 4 years, I played Name That Tune on Zoom with people all over the country and Canada. Great people that they know more than I'll ever know. But some of them are really experts. So I had the guy that is a huge Dave Matthews band.
Is that as a podcast or what?
No,
do you do
it's just we do it live. We go and we just go on Zoom every week.
okay.
And they record them, and then they kind of do little videos of them and stuff like that. But it's just a group of, we'll start out 30 people during the pandemic. We're about 15 now, but there's 15 loyal people that come every week.
That's kind of cool.
And for
Just
2
like
hours.
the karaoke nights at the bars.
And these people blow me away. I mean, I think I know what music. There's a guy that's a drummer in Milwaukee. He was a jazz drummer, and he's 35. And he can tell you a song, like a Van Halen song from the first drum beat.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like,
Okay.
I'm done.
That's
You know?
insane.
He's great, though.
Yeah, karaoke guys are like really into that stuff.
Yeah.
Man,
So we have that's
That's
my
cool.
fun
You
thing.
should
But
make that a side podcast. Or
Yes.
something. I'd
Okay.
like to see that.
I need more to do. No.
I would watch that. Yeah, I don't mean to bounce around, but I do want to back up
Sure.
with the Doobie Brothers. So you had that. Who was that? That was their drummer. That you
Their
had on?
bassist,
Their
John
bassist, sorry.
Cowan.
Don't you
Yeah.
pay attention?
Yeah, I got
He's
moving
got a
stuff.
lot going on.
I'm moving. Yeah, we're moving. He's telling a lot of good stuff here. So anyway, do you remember when they were on? This is just a crazy little. So I wanted to say it, but we moved on for a minute. I'm coming back here with when they were on the What's Happening show.
That's what I love that episode because I was like at that time. That's like 77, 78.
Was he on it though? That's what I'm trying to
He
remember.
wasn't.
No.
He was just a,
That was Tyrone Porter.
Yeah, it was
is,
before,
yes.
way
This
before
guy's
he
come
was with
later,
them.
but
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I brought it up.
But that was a great episode because I was a kid, and in 1977, 78, for you youngins, you didn't get
I was
music.
around then.
You didn't get music
Same.
on TV.
No.
Right.
You might have stayed up for Don Kirshner's rock concert,
Or the right.
midnight
Midnight
special, right?
The midnight special,
But
right?
you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have MTV, and you got to see the Doobie Brothers play on What's Happening. And it was fantastic because I was a Doobie Brothers fan, and I'm like, this is really cool.
I thought it's great that that episode still plays over and over and over again.
Yeah.
What's Happening is a great show.
Yeah, and then they
Really?
actually did a What's Happening Now. And the reason I like that show is because I like the Three Stooges. They had a game of the Three Stooges in the back. I was always like, oh, I want to see if they're playing at this and what's on the screen. So that's why I watched the What's Happening Now. But the original one was perfect with the mother.
Oh,
She wasn't in the second, the reboot, or they call it.
No,
And nor were the Doobie Brothers. That would have been cool if they brought them back.
Yeah, I mean, they have the 4 original members, and they sound fantastic. Their harmonies, and again, they have a new
Truly.
drummer. The drummer, a couple of other people have passed away, but they have a new drummer, and this guy on bass was just, crazy good. But they sound fantastic. And Michael McDonald still has that smoky voice, and
They make so much fun of him in that other more recent movie, the Virgin, the 40-year-old Virgin movie.
Yes, Jan will be there.
If I hear any more of you, but I like that song.
I do
That's what
too.
I always laughed. I'm like, geez, I like that song.
Well,
That makes
he
me-
wasn't always with them in a lot of these reunions, but then because I've seen him before when they had to play everything but his music, but now they're all together for this
They're back.
50th anniversary tour. And
Yeah.
Wasn't that because of a lot of he kind of delved off into drug addiction for a
No,
bit,
he had
or was
solo stuff. A lot
I
of,
thought it had to do with rights of the music too. Wasn't he fighting with them over like who,
rights, and I think like when they
got
were
the money?
popular, when popular these bands like that, as I've kind of done episodes about this, like you go through like some of the Doobie Brothers, they were 9 years, from like 72 to say 81.
Yeah.
They released like 9 albums, and they're touring, releasing albums. And I think the friction gets it built in. Guys say, hey, I want to do my own thing. Michael McDonald was all of a sudden, came into the band later, and they exploded. And he's like, well, I could do this on my own.
Yeah.
I want my way it to sound this way. I don't want to have a democratic process anymore.
I get but I thought he was with them during that episode of What's Happening.
Yeah, he was
Yes,
there.
he
But
was.
he said, but that was like he started like a couple of years before.
Oh,
that.
so he had only been there like a
Tom
year or two.
Johnson had pancreatitis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he was
remember
out.
that. I just don't remember when he came on there, but I couldn't remember who was on that show. But anyway, we're talking with Mike here of the Retro Rock Roundup podcast. And
Yes.
I didn't mean to take you off of what you're talking about,
No,
but I
no.
wanted to bring that up. Was that basis in with them?
Yeah,
He
no,
was
he's only
with
been there
the
since
Doobie Brothers.
he played a little bit in the 90s with them, and then he joined back in 2010. But you hear all these side guys that have all these great stories, and they're fantastic musicians.
Well, now you'll see them on TV shows. Like even 2.5 Men had a bunch of. They had Elvis Costello playing cards. Come on,
I know.
they had a lot of. But that's more recent time. I think people I don't know. The record production company, the album company tells them they could do it, or they're associated with Warner Brothers, whatever it is. But I've noticed in the last, 5-6 years, a lot more cameos like that.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah, there's different movies they show up in or TV shows, and
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 that's
it's
a big
fun.
deal to me. It's like, whoa, look at this! I can't believe they got Elvis Costello playing cards. And they had the guy from the guard that when I can't think of the character now in Godfather. He's there. He's in a ton of movies, but he was also there with Charlie Sheen. I can't think of his name right now.
which I watched.
He was in the Godfather movie as the FBI guard when the dude kills himself in the tub, the heavyset guy.
Oh yeah,
What the
yeah.
heck
I
is
know,
his
I know
name?
you mean.
Anyway, so but I just like seeing that these guys are still around. You mentioned earlier on in the podcast about you had Jim Peterick on.
Yes.
I mean, he's still touring
Oh yeah, he's
with Ides of
fantastic.
March.
With Ides
Nonetheless,
of March.
How
They
about
just went-
that?
They had their 60th anniversary concert in St. Charles, and he was on a couple weeks before. And he's so funny because
He still have purple hair. Every time I see him in a restaurant,
he
got purple
changed
hair.
it back again, I think
Oh,
now.
okay.
But he shows up. We do a Zoom, and usually sometimes artists will try to bring a guitar and try to play something, but it never works because they just do it off their computer with Zoom, and it doesn't
sound that good.
sound good or come through. But he's like his manager said he's going to do it from his studio. We have a full studio in his house, and he wants to play acoustic guitar and sing some songs on here for you.
Oh, okay.
So there was no inserting songs because he, we'd bring him a song. Well, I'll play it right now, and it came through perfectly because he had it all set up in his.
Were you able to air that? Is that airing? Okay.
Yeah, and he played, Eye of the Tiger.
You got the artist now,
Yeah,
right?
he played,
He wrote them. See,
right.
I think when the writer is dealing with you, you're okay,
right?
because he's got all the rights to the music, the
and,
lyrics, and everything.
right? And he did
and a professional studio,
right? Yes, and he had Vehicle, the song with Ides of March. And he's like, okay, but you got to do this. You got to go da 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 da, and then he did his part.
What you want to be?
Oh, here we go. We're gonna get in trouble. We don't have the rights to all these right now.
No, but anyway, he but he played, and he played Eye of the Tiger at the end.
Oh, I love that.
But he, just
Rocky.
a fun guy to talk to. He showed up and he had like the leopard skin, like leopard shirt on, and like
he's still dressing like a 70s rocker or 60s rocker, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
when did Vehicle come out? Like 64?
70,
60, 70, yeah.
Oh, was it 70?
I think it's around early 70s.
I know they were together in the 60s.
I hear it takes you anywhere you want to go.
From like Berwyn. They're from Berwyn. It does. Right.
So I need the drum roll for that or what?
Berwyn.
Anyway, they're from Berwyn. I know that. But yeah, they've been around a long time. And I think his son is also, you should get his son on now.
Yeah, because his son's doing
stuff.
Remember, they sent me something and we were supposed to schedule something with his son. Yeah, he's doing stuff. But that band, like I saw that they played a couple weeks later in St. Charles, their 60th anniversary with an orchestra. They had an orchestra with them. Oh my God, when they play Vehicle, or they play some of the slower Survivor songs.
Yeah,
Search Is Over. With
that's
that
perfect with a.
Oh my
orchestra.
God, yeah, it was really, really good. And their band is.
I don't think they had an orchestra when they were in the studio recording those songs.
No,
pretty sure they didn't. That's pretty awesome.
It was mostly just their horns players. I actually met one. He flies out of the DuPage Flight Center. Where I used to work there,
Of who? Jim Peterick's band?
Yeah, he was one of the trombone guys.
Nice.
Yeah, so a couple of guys are original trombone.
Who would have set that up? The Onesti shows, or probably Jim Peterick? I would think.
What's that?
To play with the orchestra.
That was because this was a different. It was actually at a high school in St. Charles. It was like an auditorium. Like they did. It was a separate thing than.
So he must have set it up, not the school.
Yeah, and they had a whole thing with the orchestra. And they had to practice ahead of time and try to get it. And it was like adult orchestra. And man, it was sounding fantastic.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I did. Just the fact that some of these guys, there's somebody that does live here, lives in Illinois suburbs, like where I live. So that's pretty cool. Not in London. But he was from here anyway. He wasn't from
our biggest shout from an Illinois artist. We got a shout out one time is Head East. Never Been Any Reason. They were a band in the 70s.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes. So
they were from Chicago.
Well, they're actually from Southern Illinois. But when the pandemic was winding down in 2021, they were playing a show with REO Speedwagon. And much as I try to get people in REO Speedwagon, I always get pushed aside. But I got Head East, and Roger Boyd is the founding member keyboardist from Head East, and he lives in Southern Illinois.
Okay.
He got on, and I said, well, I'll have him on before their concert, and he was great. Talked to Jeremy and I, and, they actually had some new music out, and they had, we talked about all their whole history. And I said, well, you're going to be at the River's Edge. That was a place over by next to
in Aurora
there.
Illinois,
with you're going to open for REO Speedway. He goes, yeah. He goes, stop by. He goes beforehand. He says, we'll try to say hi and stuff like that.
Nice.
So sure, okay. So we actually had to do a lot of talking, but I had some shirts for the band and I had some of these made up, and
they're like, oh, that's that guy from the podcast. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's Mike.
Yeah. So they came out. And so I gave him shirts. He came out, took a picture with Jeremy and I, and got pictures with all of us. And
did you have to pay for that? That was another question I was going to ask. When you're doing this, do they let you come and see their shows then at all? Something like Jim Peterick, for instance. Did you have to pay for that?
That one I did pay for, but now I've got like a lot of the reps. Now I'm going to say, hey, they're playing here. Can I get a ticket? And the band Sweet, Ballroom Blitz just played the Arcana, and I got like pass to go see him in the green room. And
Libby knew.
Yeah, see. And
didn't you just drop that interview a little bit?
Yeah, a few weeks ago. Yeah, and I got to go meet him down before the show.
Nice. So you do have some perks. I guess what I'm asking is what kind
more
of
and more. It's getting more perks. They ship me albums and things like that.
That's great.
Oh yeah, so that's a fun reward for doing it. Because
on vinyl or CD or
both. Both.
Okay.
What's the coolest one you've gotten so far? Like package and all around.
There is a guy. It was the weirdest thing, and I had never heard about it, but he's amazing. There's a guy from the Netherlands. No, he's from Sweden. His name is Mandoki. It's Mandoki Soulmates. He is immigrated. He immigrated to America from.
Are you not supposed to be
Germany.
talking about him? You got him like a little quiet.
No, I'm trying
I
to
was
think
like,
about all the
you're
details
thinking.
about
Okay,
it.
I was like, wait,
He-
are we not supposed to be talking about it?
Recall.
He from basically from East Berlin in the 70s.
Okay.
He immigrated here off with a friend, like they escaped,
Oh, okay.
and
Wow.
he started doing, he's an amazing percussionist, but he started doing this band called the Soulmates, where they've been doing it for 30 years. Well, they'll get together like the top artists like Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull, and they do all these songs, and they write their own songs as a separate band. And
Wow.
they're still doing. They had Greg Lake from E.L. Emerson, Lake and Palmer at one point. They had the guys
What's
from
his guy's name?
His name
Greg
is
Leg.
yeah. Oh,
Mandoki.
yeah, Leslie Mandoki, and he's long-haired, really cool guy with a big accent. And so I had him on a couple months ago, and he was so nice to talk to. He sent me a full colored like coffee table book, the album, everything
Nice.
autographed.
That's cool. There's your
So-
answer, Joe. You got a whole
set.
setup.
Yeah,
that's
wicked.
pretty nice.
And I don't really ask for it. He's like, "Oh, I'll send you an album, no problem. You want it? Yeah, I'll sign it."
How did him and his friend escape Berlin?
yeah,
especially at the time with the wall.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you this. What he told me in the story there. He always had this dream. He was a musician. I don't know how they escaped, but they escaped. Got over here, and then they interview him. I guess when they come over here, what are you going to do and stuff like that. And he says him and his friend, and his friend was a person that did like
you mean immigration? Asked them like, why are you here?
here
That
and stuff
kind
like
of
they
thing?
do like an interview. What are you
Okay.
going to do when you get here?
Okay.
And he says, I'm going to form a band with a lot of rock stars, and we're going to do tributes and help people and do music. And he goes, it was like Ian Anderson. He was like from Jethro Tull. The guy's, oh, really? And he goes, and I did it. His friend is an illustrator. And his friend says, I want to write like children's comedy illustration animated shows.
Wow.
His friend was the illustrator of Rugrats.
What?
Kidding.
Wow.
So they,
Whoa.
You know,
Okay,
he told me
this is wild. And he comes over here as I guess kind of like a refugee, sort of.
yeah,
right?
in the 70s, and then he accomplished, and the guy wouldn't accomplish. So you hear all these great stories and
Wow.
people, and they're so fun to talk to. And really, when you're
That had
done
to be a
talking,
really cool podcast. That
Yeah.
one, I gotta look at that one now.
and sometimes I get like, sometimes I'll have, a week I won't have anything, but sometimes I'll have like 4 scheduled in a week.
Did
And
you
you
get
do
all
it-
emotional? That one?
you get very excited about it, and I do research, and you think like, oh my God, this is a lot of work, but once you get done talking with them, you're like, damn, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. It's nice to have some prep to make sure you talk about what you want to get out to, because there's some amazing stories out there, obviously, as you see.
Well, that's like when I had Mick Jagger's brother on. I'm like, and actually we had planned a trip to Florida when he said, I'll do it this week. I'm like, I'm going to be in Florida with a family thing. But we had a computer and Zoom, and we were in a
You
house.
can do it.
And so, okay. And so Jeremy and I, here we are in this house we were renting with my wife.
Airbnb or something?
Yeah, so we go there, and we're in the house, and we just sit there like, is he going to do it? Like, is he really going to show up? And there he shows up, and
Wow.
he's having tea. Lives a lot more quieter lifestyle than his brother.
Yeah.
But had talked to us for an hour and a half.
So does he
He's-
see Mick very much?
Yeah, they at times so
and
they
he's younger, you said, right?
yeah,
He's
a couple years
brother.
younger.
Yeah.
But then they released he had a new album out in 2021, 2022, where Mick Jagger did the background, like did co-vocals with one of the first songs. And I said, oh, so did you get to do that? He goes, no, he's busy. He goes, so I sent him the file. He was in Italy at the time, and he recorded him there. He goes, but he's horrible at the studio. He goes, he kept screwing it up. He says he can be a great singer, but he doesn't know how to run a studio or record things.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, everybody's got their little
Excuse me.
talents. I guess they don't. You're not necessarily a singer and a really good musician all the time. Some people don't even know how to read and write music.
Right? Yeah.
Some artists.
But it was funny. He's like, oh my God, your brother.
Wait. Joe just raised his hand. You don't write music?
I write melodies in my head. That's about it.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there,
Wow.
add Primal Moon former Primal Moon lead singer. He doesn't either.
I played bass clarinet in high school. It's quite literally.
So you can read some notes.
Yeah, I mean, I could look at them and be like, "That's a C."
Wow. So there you go. I mean, that's you can't fault the guy for that, I guess.
Libby might know this. So speaking of Chris Jagger, he's there and he's having tea, and a woman comes by, and she goes, oh, here's your tea, honey. That's my wife. He said, you know who she is? And I'm like, no. And he said, this is Mary, I think her name was. You're familiar with Roxy Music?
Yeah. Brian Ferry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Their first album they released, their second album, has a model on the front of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's his wife.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
Man, it's
Yeah.
amazing how people know people. I mean, I would have
Right,
never
yeah.
guessed that.
Right.
That's the
You know,
guy's
so it's
wife.
like, you know, and she's there, just here's your tea. And
Such
How
a
did
small
that come
world.
up? How did that come up as
well,
a topic?
she came up and she was handing him, and he goes, "Are you familiar with Roxy Music?"
Oh,
And
okay.
I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You know that cover when they're real, you know, sexy girl in the front?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes,
There she is, right
"That's
there.
my wife. She did that. Used to be a model."
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I love hearing these stories.
and the more and more you are in like an art scene, the more and more people you'll just eventually run into at some point. Honestly,
Yeah, I mean, I've been,
Podcast,
I've
too.
been around the broadcast business for almost 30 years. So
Yeah,
yes,
you
you do
have.
meet a lot of people. But
Yeah.
am I friends with them? Are they on an intimate podcast with me? No, I was
Except
lucky
Joe
to.
Brunker.
Yeah, well, okay, there you go. We met Joe.
intimacy.
Yeah, there we go. Well, Joe was talking to me on Facebook. We started being friends over like the guerrilla marketing stuff
Yeah, it was a
because
couple
I
of
kept
years
asking
back.
about that.
And didn't you see me at Over the Sun?
Oh yeah, that was a long time. I forgot about
Wow.
that. That was
Long time
years
ago.
ago. That was
Yeah,
like
I
6
mean,
years ago, 7 years ago.
it's fun when you can get these guys, like get them in Zoom, like if you're in their living room, or we had Doug Cosmo Clifford, the original drummer from CCR.
Yeah, sure.
You know, he don't perform anymore,
Oh.
but he has released. He apparently in the 70s, after CCR broke up, he did all these albums with other artists that sat in a vault for like 30 years, 40 years, and now he has his own record company he bought. And he's releasing them. So he would talk about them, and but he's in his room with like gold records in the back,
Nice.
But he's like, "Hey, how you doing today?" It's just so relaxed.
I think he planned that he wanted to be in that room, seeing the
Oh,
gold
yeah, a
records,
lot of them
though.
with
Come
their
on,
guitars. Yeah, they all
didn't just
kinda-
randomly. Oh, let's go into my room with all my gold
Yeah, I
records.
know some of them are really. Let me show you what he got.
That's
here,
pretty cool, though.
So yeah, it's always fun.
What's the name of his company?
I
record company?
can't think of my name now. Darn it. Yeah, I started my own record company because I had all these albums, these recordings I want to get released, and then I wanted to be my own boss, and then say,
What would they? Why would they not release it? Just,
Well,
they
like-
weren't big enough.
well, he
They didn't
said
have
that
an A&R
they had a guy
person or
from Derek and the Dominoes, it was one of but with a keyboard, but one of the guys in there was also a singer.
Mhm.
He recorded this album with him. He says, but then like maybe the record company says, I don't rejected it, or maybe the things just didn't work out, or they said they wanted to do something else. Well, he's kept all these recordings,
Okay.
and he's done like a bunch of different ones. And you find out artists have all these things they've recorded, but then nothing ever happened with
So
it.
they're just like masters or something sitting in a
Yeah.
vault, basically, is what
And
he knew about. I guess.
remastered them and released them.
I wonder what that's another thing. What were these guys releasing on those? You're talking about where they were still doing reel to reel and
Yeah.
albums, like you said. Are they still giving you albums like actual vinyl then?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then some of the stuff though, they said they had to like the tape had to be like they bake it or whatever. When there's something they do with the tape. I don't know all the technical jargon.
The puck is what you're talking
No,
about.
like the like the old
The reel to reel
tapes. They had to bake it or something to get it, preserve it, and then they had to I don't know. There's all these.
Oh, I don't remember what that process is. I'm
Yeah, I
sure I
don't-
learned that in school.
The analog production is what you're talking about.
Yeah, when
Oh,
they
yeah.
With the actual reel to reel, like the 18 track or 20 whatever track reel to reel tapes.
Yeah, Luke and I did that with Dead Harvest. We did an analog song, and it's like, yeah,
Did you bake it? Whatever he's
I
talking
don't.
about.
The guy who recorded us talked about baking it, but I had
Yeah,
no
then there's
clue what
somebody
he was
they had to
talking
take
I
it
don't
and
know what
redo
that
it.
is. I've never heard that.
Yeah, I don't know
Heard
all the
that before,
technical
huh?
jargon, but it's a lot of fun. I had last 2 months ago I had Robin Robbins, who was the keyboardist for Bob Seger's Silver Bullet.
Yes,
During like
I met him.
you met Robin or Bob?
No, Robin. I wish I met Bob Seger.
Robin,
right?
He was great.
He was at the Loop, but Bob Seger, I think, had just left. I think they were there together, but he happened to be waiting in the lobby, and I was talking to him, and I didn't even know who he was. Kind of embarrassing. That,
Right.
But
Yeah.
again,
course
it
it
wasn't Bob
is.
Seger. It was his band member. So whatever.
Yeah, he was
But
great. So he was on in July, and after he quit touring with Bob in the 80s, I've done 10 years
Man,
of it.
this is when I saw him. Late 90s, early 2000s. So it's a while ago.
Yeah, and then he got into mastering, like
Okay.
like mastering and engineering albums, and he's done stuff for Sinead O'Connor and U2 and things like that.
It's amazing how everybody goes and does something usually industry related somehow, but that's pretty cool.
He said that he
became an
was going to go
engineer.
back to medical school, and he said I went to Miami.
Okay,
was
that
gonna
had
do
nothing to do
that.
with the business, but
He goes,
okay.
then I met Barry Gibb in
Oh,
like
wow.
79,
Oh.
and he said, I know you do like mastering, so he goes, can you do this one of our BG albums?
Yeah.
And he goes, I had so much fun with it, I quit medical school, and
Wow. Now that I didn't know. We didn't talk about that on the air.
You know, it's wild. The lead singer of Weezer quit Harvard his last semester.
Yeah, I heard about
Yeah.
And
that.
like, it's just crazy. Like
Yeah.
once art gets into you, it's just kind of hard to let it go.
Maybe he figured, what it was too stressful for him or whatever. Because Harvard, obviously one of the top schools in the world. Not alone. What's
I'd
that?
say
I
so.
think he did pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, now would you interview? You'd interview Weezer.
Oh,
They're
I'll
like
take-
retro.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take anybody that
rock.
really, I go pick into things. And then we had Collective Soul on, the bassist from Collective Soul.
Love Collective Soul.
So
Yeah, and again,
They were they were in the lobby and I was talking to them. I used to produce at a big station downtown Chicago,
okay.
and I met a lot of people, but kind of like that, getting them coffee or getting them ready to come in the studio or talking to them on the phone, stuff like that. I never really was able to interview them or anything. I
Yeah.
wish you can interview
But
them.
that's the
what's
cool
so
thing about this whole podcast thing is that you can reach out to people and it seems to be less red tape.
Don't you feel more comfortable like you're just having a regular when
When I
we're
sit
having
in
right
my
now,
office and they're on
conversation,
my screen and we're talking or even like when I went to see the Dead Daisy guys, we went to a private little table where there was nobody around and they were the friendliest, funnest people,
Where'd you see them again?
I saw them at the Arcada, but we did the interview downtown Chicago.
Oh, that was when you went downtown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and they were all still dressed like that.
Yeah, he comes out dressed.
Yeah, but I didn't catch. You said you were at the Arcada, though.
Yeah,
Okay,
Arcada.
got it.
Ron has been really great. Like, so what if I am interviewing somebody from his show? I had 10cc. I'm not in love,
Yeah.
we're on. And so
Mhm.
they were going to play the Arcada a few months ago. So I emailed them and said, hey, I'm going to release this episode. I'm going to promote their show. And so she'll send me like 5 pairs of tickets that I'll give away to my listeners.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that's nice.
So
That's
I'll-
what we're gonna start giving perks away. We haven't done it yet, but I have some stuff, more like Chicago related specifically though,
yeah.
like
well,
theater tickets and stuff.
and I have to do like limit it to Chicago listeners, right? People aren't going to, come to St. Charles or live in another
yeah,
state.
no, you want to be national. So
But-
do we. But
but
we're
still,
here in Chicago
I
area.
get people that like I did one for Sweet. We gave tickets away, and there were 2 people that won tickets. What I do is here, just tell me your favorite Sweet song, and then it
was an
then,
easy way to do it.
Then
Okay.
at the end of the week we do a thing. We have we pick a name to pick the names. But there were 2 people that went that I've never met in my life.
Okay.
And they said, "Yeah, thank you," and they went to the show and had a great time. So
Good.
progress.
Sounds pretty
but,
sweet.
But you ended up. They were from the area
pun
here where
intended.
you're.
Yeah,
doing
right,
it.
yeah.
The
Oh, pun
Illinois,
intended.
Chicago area.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So
I'm impressed. I definitely am going to be listening more often. Like I said, I've caught bits and pieces of you, but now
He's got some killer interviews.
yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to the
thank you.
whole thing now.
it's fun, and I'm not the greatest interviewer, but I just have fun with it. I do my research and just talk to them, and
I like the guests that you're talking about that you're getting. I didn't think a lot of these guys would answer and say
It's-
they would do it.
well, I'm in sales with my regular job, and I don't mind going up and talking to people and saying
Okay.
hi. So if I can email somebody, and what's the worst thing to say is no, or they don't respond,
Or they don't respond. Yeah.
But like I said, with Chris Jagger or with other people I interviewed, yeah, I'll be on. Like, oh, great.
I would have been really excited about that one to be honest.
Always go for the ask.
Yeah, exactly. Joe knows. But yeah, it's fun, and we always had fun with it. And if they do answer, that's a huge high. Oh my God, look, and he responded back.
Have you looked at putting it on like sending it and seeing if I don't know, not MTV, but like one of the cable networks would pick it up because it sounds like something that could be
That's a future thing. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Yeah,
Mike's
like
World. Party
cable
time.
network.
yeah. I would love to expand it more, get more people out there. The guy that I kind of learned from out of California is doing it for 15 years. I mean, he's grown his immensely. He has sponsors now, and
There you go.
Yeah.
Are you getting sponsors too?
We're trying.
Yeah.
Not yet. The Arcada is going to be my sponsor right now. I'm going to talk to them about because we give away tickets, and I'm going to just say for free tickets, I'll be glad to have them as a sponsor if I give tickets away.
Yeah, like a barter kind of thing.
Right,
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
but,
I'm sure he'll do that.
I've tried to do it locally without a lot of success, but
It comes down to the topic. What, how are you getting somebody interested? What it is, the little key things. What makes it like unique. Your unique selling point, USP they call it.
right.
You're in sales. You know
right.
what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, you just got to take the time to do it. That's the
Right.
thing.
And I've approached a few people there's some restaurants that were rock oriented in the suburbs, and trying to sell them. Hey, I have a lot of new music from a lot of Chicagoland area artists, and I'd love to have you part of the,
Have Have you talked to like Hard Rock Cafe or something? Like
I
a
have
national?
not. Yeah, no, that's something to look at too. But I didn't get a lot of response from it. But
from the local
ones. But then the restaurant industry isn't in the best thing right now for a lot of local. But I think you could keep trying and working. I'm going to find something.
I think a lot more people are listening to podcasts than they are terrestrial radio.
I agree.
I really do think it's ramping up, and streaming radio. Like we're covering it all. We're streaming. We're on the podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. Video. So that's that is definitely
and these
a good thing to be.
Right. And these up and coming bands, when I do the Friday episodes, they're the best because a lot of times you'll send the thing back to the rap, and they'll promote a little bit, but they've also promoting everything else. The bigger bands, but you do a local band or a up and coming band, like even one I just did from New Jersey. They've got it on all their Facebook pages. They've got it on their Twitter.
And
check out Retro Rock Roundup. Check out Retro Rock Roundup. And they put it out so big. I'm like, this is huge. This is really a great way to expand my podcast.
You're getting free advertising,
because they're like, oh, Primal Moon, the same thing. Hey, we were on Retro Rock Roundup. But
one thing to do is the bands could give you like $5 or something to promote them and they print out stuff or something. But again, a lot of times they don't have a budget.
Well, it also helps, not only like you gain the older generations, like from interviewing older bands, but then you also gain the newer generation, and then gives them a chance to look into the older songs.
Right.
So that's you got the niche. It gets you. I'm sure it's definitely grown. It's almost 5 years you're doing it now. You said, right?
Yeah, it'll be 5 years in December.
Yeah. So that's a good enough time. You've established yourself. I'm sure that it's going to keep growing too. Now you're on another podcast, so there you go.
That's right. See, this is fantastic.
Another streaming show.
Podcast.
And worth listening.
There's a group of the Drive, the station in Chicago, I go to a lot of their events. Like Thirsty Thursdays. So I know a lot of people on Facebook, group of friends.
Sherman and Tingle.
I know Sherman and Tingle.
I actually know him too. But.
Yeah, but but I know a lot of the fans. There's people I got good friends with, and they have their own driver fan page. It's got nothing to do with the Drive.
Yeah.
But I advertise my podcast on there every week. I put the new episodes out, and they're into it, and they've won tickets to some of the events I've done.
Perfect. I mean, you got the right idea. Definitely, a great thing you're doing. I love that you're doing this. So I'm definitely going to check out Mike's podcast, Retro Rock Roundup. Again, It's available on is it on YouTube or there's no video?
No, there's
just
no
audio?
video, so it's audio. So it's on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, pretty much
iHeart probably.
iHeart, yeah. And again, you can also, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter at Roundup Retro or X, and then Retro Rock Roundup on Instagram and TikTok.
Say that again. If you want to be on the Retro Rock Roundup podcast, how do they get a hold of you then? Say that one more time.
We're on Facebook at Retro Rock Roundup, we're on Twitter at Roundup Retro, and we're on Instagram at Retro Rock Roundup and TikTok at Retro Rock Roundup. And every week on all those, when I advertise a new episode, they're advertised with a link to the episode.
Oh, great. Okay, so they don't even need to email you. Just go to the social media and they'll find it.
Yeah, or you can email us at what is it? It's retrorockroundup@gmail.com.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, you probably mostly do the social media. You don't even tell the email, but if they want to email you, they can.
Right. Great.
Well, thanks for coming on, Mike. It was a great stuff to talk about. I'm a little jealous that you've had such great artists on your show already. That's pretty
We keep
awesome.
Trying. There's a few I want to get.
We got to go back and forth. Every time we have somebody from a rock band, we're going to tell you about them.
Yeah, no, I want to thank you for doing this. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank Joe.
And thank Joe for setting this up.
Joe is
Libby, who is my
this was fun.
She
knows more about music than I do.
We got a great producer over there. Seems to be doing a good job.
Yeah, that's Earl over there. Thank you, Earl. Everybody have a great night. Thanks for being with us. Again, you can find us on IntellectualRadio.com and, of course, YouTube and all of the social media, and as well as, of course, the podcast. Everybody take care. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.